It's you eat what you kill in the most crude terms. You can be selling a $7 million property, you get there 5 minutes before a showing, and there's dog shit on the terrace. And your story, we're business partners, work in luxury real estate here in New York, coming to you live from Times Square, a place that I don't usually come.
Really?
But I come for this. I'll come for you.
I'm so passionate about New York. I love New York.
I had worked in banking and then management consulting, and then I left that to start my own company. I woke up in the middle of the night thinking,
What have I done?
this loose cannon to my left. You do not see the actual life of a broker.
No.
Because that's not your TV.
It's not as easy as it looks from the outside, and that it really does take a lot of work. Residential real estate is so much emotion.
Yeah.
It is so much emotion.
Deal is literally never done until the commission check has been deposited. What's the one thing that surprised you most when you entered real estate? Welcome to the first episode of Somewhere in New York. I'm Taylor Durland alongside Joseph Pullen.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Coming to you live from Times Square, a place that I don't usually come.
Really?
But I come for this. I'll come for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You really? You don't come to Times Square?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Unless I'm going to a show.
Right.
You know.
Right.
How are you feeling this morning?
Nervous.
Yeah, you want to say anything more?
Doing something like this for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting process.
It's a
I'm
new-
excited, but I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a new medium for us.
Mhm.
We're business partners, work in luxury real estate here in New York. But we're really talking about kind of all things life with a hint of real estate sprinkled in.
Mhm.
And, a lot of the topics we'll cover will be about our own journeys, how we got here. I think they're unique, but also complementary. I think it's the reason why I've put up with you for the past year. And you might
That
feel the same.
nightmare of
Yeah, the
yours.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Whew. I know. I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, oh,
What have I done?
this loose cannon
To
to my
me?
left. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But why did you get into real estate, Joseph?
Oh, so right off the bat,
Yeah.
like segue or like, yeah,
No,
yeah.
just get into it. Let's
Wow.
go.
Why did I get into real estate? I had a whole career prior to this, and it was around the time that all the reality shows were launching. $1 Million Listing in the New York, the first ones, Selling New York. And we would watch and track, and I actually credit Ray, my partner, opening the door, setting the stage, because we would watch, and he'd said, you should do this. You should do this.
And you were still in advertising at the
Still in advertising,
Okay.
marketing, yes. I think part of what he was responding to is they would flash the commissions at the bottom of the screen. It was like, wow, But also he kind of had a sense, it was a passing thing or statement to me. But then it started piquing my curiosity.
Yeah.
And it's something that interested me. Not only being aware of how the city has evolved and expanded and changed, but also aware of, having a passion for architecture, having a sense of who lives where, like the, real estate gossip. I loved all of those things. And also, I think number one, I'm so passionate about New York. It's a city, even though I'm not from here, I'm from Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. And I am a proud Chicagoan, but I love New York.
One point on that. Does anyone actually call it Chi-Town? Or is that like what people
Yes.
call,
I
Okay.
don't, but I know it's not, isn't that
but lesser people do?
I mean, did you say lesser people?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that. But it is called Chi. It is a nickname.
Yeah.
And along like the Windy City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Chicago. I've been there a few times. Most of my knowledge is from Shameless, the show.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I watched the first season, then I was like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, the craziness is why you keep watching.
Yeah.
What ultimately made you jump in? Why did you leave
Yeah.
the stability of the corporate world and go to something which is not easy?
At all, right?
Contrary to what the reality shows may purvey.
Right.
And I will say, I think they're so entertaining
Mm-hmm.
and
Eh.
I know they are. I think it's,
Yeah.
if you take it for what they are, right? It's not really about real estate. It is, but it isn't. It's about the fashion and the drama. I mean, that's why people watch.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But you do not see the actual life of a broker.
No.
because that's not good TV.
It's not good TV.
You don't want to see someone agonizing for 2 hours over how to word a specific email such that a seller will finally lower their price after 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to watch that.
Yeah, 2 years. Oh my God. Well, for the record, we've not had a listing for 2 years.
True.
Yeah. We've done better than that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's kind of all of the above because I came to New York for advertising and I loved it, but there was a point where I was ready to move on, and I could share that at some point. Because there was a breaking point.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And it was a little dramatic. But I just had an interest and I thought, okay, let me go for it. But I didn't know where it was going. I did get my license and I didn't tell anyone. It was such a secret because, I didn't want to be that person that started talking about, oh, I'm going to do this, going to do this. And then it goes nowhere. And then, people are asking you months later or a year later, hey, whatever happened? And then, you feel like you just made a big deal out of nothing.
Yeah.
So I got my license secretly. I told one person, Ray, my partner. That was it. My mom didn't even know I was getting my license. And I knew I wanted to be at Corcoran, because that's the agency, at the time, the brokerage, and, still, had the best reputation. So, yeah, but I decided to go for it. Had never done sales before. Had always had a salaried position. I feel like I'm rambling. Am I rambling?
No, I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Because I will. And then
2 hours later.
Right. What brought you into this realm?
Well, before I jumped into real estate, I'd already left the corporate world to do something entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
So I had worked in banking and then management consulting, and then I left that to start my own company and then started another beverage company, which I sold a few years ago. And it wasn't the cleanest break. I felt like I was sort of losing my baby and I felt a little bit lost.
Mm-hmm.
I was going back and forth between New York and LA. I really wanted to come back to New York. It's always felt home. I've been here for a long time. And when I came back, I didn't really know what to do. I was lost. And I think sometimes when you leave enough space to find yourself without immediately jumping into the next thing, you're able to really genuinely find what you love to do. And for me, it's always been real estate. I remember when I was young and we'd get the Sunday Times at our house, I'd go right to the Sunday Times magazine and go all the way to the back where they had all of the real estate listings.
Oh, wow.
And I was just so fascinated about the concept of these incredible homes. Mm-hmm. And just, home is so important. It's important to me. I think spending so much time on the road, both in my corporate life as a consultant and then as an entrepreneur, I value home much more. And so the idea of helping someone find their home base was really attractive.
Yeah.
But I was very resistant. And I don't know if you shared this, because being a real estate agent, a broker, it has this used car salesman patina to it.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
I didn't tell many people that I was getting my license. And when I did, even when I started interviewing with different brokerages to find the right one and hung my license, as we call it, I still wasn't sure that this would be a career.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I've always done lots of different things. But it was interesting, the more I shared with people, hey, I've taken this next step, every single person was like, that is perfect for you.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that too. I've gotten that a lot through the years. Like, oh, you really found your niche. And you're right. I think it's interesting because the reputation of our industry, and certainly in the past, I think it's gotten better to some degree. I'm not sure that the reality shows have helped. I think
probably not.
Yeah, I think what they've done is more presented in something that what we do is really easy.
Yeah.
And kind of sexy, and that we, dress well. Well, you do. We dress well and do deals.
Wish I could say the same for both of us.
So, I think it is a process.
Yeah.
But it's a good business.
Yeah.
And I think one of the nice things is that it's also something that brought us together, you and I, is that we're both passionate. We do love what we do.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's something really important to bring to the table. I think we bring that to every deal for sellers representing our clients. Yeah.
You mentioned the reality shows and you being attracted, or maybe it was your partner being attracted by the big commissions.
Mhm.
And it
He
from
would deny that, by the way.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
That's a big difference between being in the corporate world and being in a commission only role.
Yes.
And you don't know where the next check will come from. It may be big and you may have spent years, hundreds of hours nurturing that relationship or that deal until something actually comes of it
Mhm.
where you're
If
transacting.
something comes of it.
If something
Yeah,
comes of it.
sometimes it doesn't.
You're putting in the time for maybe the opportunity to make money at
Right.
some point.
Right. Right.
And I think that risk is lost, certainly in the reality shows.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
About that's a big difference. It's you eat what you kill in the most crude terms. It's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to. It's a hustle, and
Mhm.
especially in New York City, the competition is
Intense.
intense.
Yeah. I forget the number. It's several thousand brokers in the city across the boroughs.
Many, many thousand.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting business, and really, you're right. Like the uncertainty of it, you really have to have commitment because, I mean, I know I got into this with the expectations of it being easier.
Oh, you did.
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought, because my frame was reality TV, selling our $1 million listing,
Interesting.
thinking, and also the other part of it too is I'm editing in my head right now.
Don't
because-
edit.
No,
We
no,
can do that later.
Some because I can't name names, but I had expectations of people I knew, friends, being completely supportive and giving me deals, like almost handing me deals on a silver platter, and that didn't pan out that way, because for whatever reason, I think, it's such one's home is the biggest asset, right?
Yeah.
And usually. And so it was, my expectations were people were going to
Yeah.
come to me. Oh, Joseph got his license. He's a broker now.
Yeah.
Here, sell my place.
Yeah.
And that it didn't pan out that way. And they warn you about that in our industry coming in, that it takes they project on average 4 to 5 years to really get traction in this industry. And, I came in far more arrogant thinking, oh, right, I'm going to do it faster. And, that was kind of my reality. It took time and patience and nurturing and learning and doing, partnering with more seasoned brokers really helped launch me.
You told me one time, one of the biggest things that you've learned is in all of your years is try not to editorialize.
Yeah.
We'll say more about that.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
It comes from properties, listings. It's because everybody is different, and as they say in French, chacun a son goût, to each his own taste. And you learn that even though you have an appreciation for certain aesthetic style, some are more traditional, some are modern, contemporary, a look, furnishings, wall treatments, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that's for everyone. And you learn everyone's different. So I recall early on having a listing that felt like a glorified hotel suite, bland, just kind of, not a lot of personality, and just being put off by it. And it's like, this doesn't show well. And a lot of people, almost every prospective buyer that came through the door felt the same. But then there was one set of buyers, this couple that came in and loved everything about this listing. And they like, oh my God, I love this. And in my head, I remember thinking, seriously? But you know what? Those were our buyers.
Yeah.
They're the ones that we did the deal with. And so you just never know. So you have to step back and let people take it in for themselves. Of course, we do our jobs and present or point out certain qualities of a space that highlight certain things. But, you don't want to over editorialize. You don't want to put your taste in someone else's head.
Yeah. I think real estate also very quickly humbles you. You can be selling a $7 million property. You get there 5 minutes before a showing, and there's dog shit on the terrace. And, true story.
True story.
What do? You pick it up because your one goal is to do everything possible to present that property in a light that's going to incentivize buyers.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And there's something comforting about that lack of ambiguity that attracted me to it. Well, in the corporate world, my destiny felt tied to other people's whims. I remember there was a very senior executive at a company that I used to work for. I'll leave it there. And when
That's for later.
For later, yeah.
Yeah.
After I've had a drink.
Right.
When I came in, as they typically do after you come in from another company, they'll level you down to make sure that you can hang, and then, you'll get promoted, etc. And so I always knew that I was, slightly undercompensated, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to show them, and then I'll fix that later. And I got all the affirmation from people who I thought were decision makers, people who are the global management committee of a Fortune 500 company with hundreds of thousands of employees saying, yes, we agree, Taylor. And then because of whatever reason, they have a finite amount of political capital that they have to use. And so when it kept not happening, I was like, you really don't have anyone to blame but yourself, because you're letting it happen. And
so you're kind of in control of your own destiny.
Yeah. And I use that to juxtapose in real estate. While there's a lot more risk, you also have yourself to either blame for a failure or to celebrate a win.
You have more control.
You have more control.
Yeah.
There are lots of factors outside of your control, and I don't mean to say that there aren't.
Right.
But there was something about the direct sales muscle that was attractive.
Okay.
I had done sales in a way when I was in consulting. I, sold consulting work. When I was launching my beverage company, I raised money. I was selling myself and my idea to people. But in real estate, it's very simple. You're looking someone in the eye and you're saying, hey, choose me, as opposed to and I just looked this up, 27,000 other licensed real estate agents in New York.
So I was close. I said 25.
Oh, you said 25? Yeah, very close. Because of why? You have to have the confidence to stand up for who you are and, kind of stand both behind yourself and in front of yourself.
Sure.
To appeal and say, this is what I bring. This is the value that I'm bringing to you. And this is why I'm going to be the best person to help you sell or buy.
But the other thing too, and you know what I was just thinking we didn't touch on, because I think one of the interesting things about you is you talk about your beverage company, and I want to expand on that a bit. But you're also, what you're describing is when more often when there's a blind pitch, so to speak, for a seller or something. But the reality is, collectively, we have a pretty extensive network. People, and I think the way we've grown our business, I know a lot of it has been because of referrals, because, people, we've done something right for our sellers or our buyers, and they've referred us to others in their network. And I think that's the strongest way, to grow, your sphere of influence, right? Let's talk a little bit about some of your background, because, you and I joke about you being such a health nut, and, you give me a hard time. Can I say shit?
You can.
Can I?
It's allowed.
Yeah.
It's allowed.
I still remember that meeting we were in. You're like, and there was pizza, and you're like, you're going to eat that? Never let that go. But there's value there, and part of it comes from who you are, but also your background. And you touched on this beverage company that you had. What was that?
This is a beverage that, well, first let me start saying that it was alcohol, so it wasn't the most healthy beverage you could ever have.
Right.
But there was a story, and it'll make sense behind it, and it'll make sense soon. This is something that I had created in my kitchen in New York. It was steeped tequila with organic strawberries and jalapenos. And I started experimenting with tequila because at the time there was something that I believe has now been debunked, that it was in some way like a healthier option.
Tequila.
Yeah.
And you bought into that. You believed it. Oh, yeah.
Well, I was also reevaluating my relationship with alcohol, and the thought of drinking something straight instead of with a lot of sugar and mixers appealed to me.
Okay.
So the whole concept was something that was still tasty, but you didn't have to add anything to, that you could drink on the rocks or serve as the base of a cocktail that you just had to put maybe some club soda with. So that was the origin story, like my apartment here in New York.
So were you mixing things in your apartment?
Oh, yeah. Like I was a little chemist in my Greenwich Village apartment, which I still live in. And during the pandemic, it became to represent everything that I was missing friends, connection, communion,
Alcohol.
alcohol. Well, ironically,
Parties.
I started this at a time when I was drinking less and less, which is kind of interesting.
Because it's kind of the opposite of what people were doing during the pandemic.
Yeah,
I mean,
people were,
alcohol.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
drinking a lot. Again, like, to each their own, right? This was something that I thought I connected with. And during the pandemic, as I left the corporate world, this became one of the projects that I incubated, and then it eventually became its own company that was based in Los Angeles. We had a production facility in Oaxaca, Mexico,
Wow.
and eventually sold it a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is it still out there? Can we still buy it like at Erewhon and
I can't answer that question.
Okay. All right.
I'm not involved anymore.
Yeah, yeah. You've
But
moved on.
I've moved on,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned so much
Mm-hmm.
during that experience. Hard to see that in the moment, but I learned a lot that has served me well in real estate.
Yeah.
I think I'm
Yeah.
more bullish on myself. I think I just have been through a lot of shit, to be honest. I have a thicker skin. I actually was just looking at TikTok this morning because,
Tick what?
yeah, it's a medium that I'm testing.
Right.
And
right.
I posted something yesterday about the penthouse that we visited with Corcoran, a beautiful
Mhm.
property
It's the
in
one at Spring and Thompson.
Spring and Thompson.
You
Yeah.
know what? I mean, as you know, I wanted to be there too, but I had another commitment. But
Do you want to share what that commitment was, or no?
Oh wow! So we're going there.
Sure.
Just for the record, there were things that we had kind of loosely agreed on prior to this. Coming into this is like, what's off limits?
Oh, I missed that memo. Was this
Yeah.
was your chemical peel off limits?
Oh my God! Edit.
All right, go on. You wanted to be there.
Yeah. So no, I saw some of the video that you shot. It is a beautiful space because I forgot we visited
We did.
that
Yeah.
building before, but another unit, right? And I know you've been a big advocate. You love that building.
I really love that
Okay,
building.
yeah.
By the way, your skin looks incredible, dewy, moisturized.
I forgot this video.
Yeah. But I posted this video, and I guess a lot of people thought that it was like a horrific view. And so the amount of like negative comments,
Really?
and
Yeah.
I was like, damn, the internet is savage.
Well, you know how I feel. Your artistic shot.
But at the same time, I stepped back and I was like,
Okay.
everyone's going to have an opinion. And I bring this story up because I don't know if I would have had the same, I don't know if it's laissez-faire or just kind of let it roll behind your back
Right.
attitude 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes.
And I think you need
Right.
that,
You
whether it's
need
social
that.
media, in person.
One-
You're going to hear no so many times.
Yep.
And you can't take it personally. You just have to
Yep.
keep it moving.
That's something I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. You do take things personally, right?
Yeah.
If you pitch a listing and don't get it,
Yeah.
right? And that's,
Mhm.
unfortunately happened.
Yeah.
Not a lot, for the record.
Yeah.
But it happens. Yeah. And, we're up against a lot of competition. But anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, as we wrap episode 1,
mm,
what's the one thing, or maybe pick one thing that surprised you most when you entered real estate?
it's not as easy as it looks from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that it really does take a lot of work, and every deal is different. And that's good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it's mostly good because one of the reasons that I love this business is so dynamic,
Mhm.
And you're always learning, and you've got to be on your toes and adapt and pivot quickly, but I think that's it. I mean, there's no singular way to do a deal
Mm-hmm.
or to get to a closing, I should
Yeah.
say.
For me, it's
Right.
that a deal is literally never done until
Yep.
the commission check has been deposited. And even then, I'm like, I don't know. Something's got to happen.
Right.
Because I've seen, and you've been in the business a lot longer than I have, I've seen so many deals break down at points that you thought were, a point of no return. Meaning this has got to go through.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But that's also, what makes it interesting.
Yep.
And I like to think that nimbleness and flexibility that is forced upon us has a positive effect on me as a human.
Yeah.
In my personal life,
Yeah.
with friends and family and relationships. I think it does. I think it does.
And how so? Like helping to manage your expectations and like, or balance your expectation. I don't want to say lower, but just what does that mean?
Being able to pivot quickly
Mm-hmm.
and without stewing in frustration or anger,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
and just, well,
Yeah.
this is what it is, and that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep moving,
Yeah.
because even though there are lots of external factors, as you mentioned before, that could make a deal go south,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you are the quarterback, and in the client's eyes, it's all your fault. And I mean that in not in necessarily a negative way, but that's the role. You are there to coordinate.
Yeah.
Oh, did you not get that football reference?
Yeah, exactly.
So quarterback, they're the
Or
kind
what?
of star of the team.
I hate sports. I'm metaphors.
You're there, you're the conductor. How about that?
Okay.
You're
Yeah.
there to conduct
Yes.
attorneys
Yes.
and mortgage
Yes.
bankers and,
Right.
and title specialists and
Yep.
everyone right
Et cetera,
together,
et cetera.
et cetera, et cetera. So you're the face of the success or the failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, you have to own that.
Puppet master at times.
Yeah, for sure.
Oftentimes.
Managing a lot of emotions,
Yep. Yep.
sometimes our own, but
Yep.
I think we kind of have to put our emotions to the side because there are enough emotions on the table with all the different parties involved to go around.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I could still probe even more on some of what you're saying, but you just reminded me, because that's the thing about our business. Residential real estate is so much emotion.
Yeah.
It is so much emotion involved. And I remember years ago when I had a buyer and we were out looking at properties and there was things happening, and her boyfriend, who was in commercial real estate, said, "What's the big deal? It's just real estate." And I thought, no, you're in commercial. It's very transactional. This is residential, and it's almost all about emotion.
Yeah.
Very often.
We do a little bit of commercial as well.
Yes, we do.
And there are more emotions in it than you might think because there are people involved. There's still a lot of people involved. And so while there may be less emotions on the buy or sell side, there are also, just a lot of emotions with all the other professionals involved.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Point taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great first episode. We'll be back next time with another episode of Somewhere in New York. I'm Taylor Durland alongside Joseph Pullen. See you next time.